Hello, today we're talking about Unit 11, relative clauses from grammar and vocabulary, right? From the entry test, we won't be together now, right? We will in class, looking at the activities, right? We may go back to activity 1, blank number 8, where it says since when, right? We'll get back here in a minute. So as I said, we're going to talk about relative clauses, and in this sense, one of the problems is, well, being able to tell what is a relative clause, and then we're going to go to these notes, right? We typically call them defining relative clauses, but American English speakers tend to use restrictive and non-restrictive clauses, right? And here's actually this is taken from one of the Merriam-Webster videos that was taken down, unfortunately. We still have this whom video because the editor who made this video still works there. I assume the editor who made that which video was either fired or something, so the video was taken down. So my example actually is hers, and it was the book which addresses this topic is a usage dictionary, right? And she was telling readers of the newspaper of the dictionary that somebody had complained because she had used this sentence, right, and told her that which was wrong. And what she explained was that long ago, both that and which were used, right, but that fell out of use in the 17th century. When it resurfaced, because you know words do these things, grammarians decided it would be tidy to make that the king of restrictive clauses and which the king of non-restrictive clauses. And if you think about it, this makes a lot of sense, right? It's not a bad idea. So the decision was made that we would say the book that addresses this topic is a usage dictionary, and in this case, that addresses this topic is a defining relative clause because it defines the book. It's not any book. It's the specific one that addresses this topic. So this is not something additional. This is something I need to understand the book you're talking about, right? Whereas in the book, which is right under your nose, is the usage dictionary you need, which is right under your nose is what we call a non-defining relative clause or a non-restrictive clause. And what we mean is that this information is parenthetical, right? That it can be removed. It doesn't affect the meaning of the sentence. It is just additional, right? Remember that we need these two commas, right? Here and here. Otherwise, the sentence doesn't make sense, right? If you use only one of those commas. Now, it is true that speakers use that in this case and which where you should be using that. Mostly using which where you should be using that, right? It's just a thing that happens in the same way many other things happen in language, right? Possibly you think that this is a very useful idea, right? What I would like to add is that well, I think that the decision of grammarians, I mean, these grammarians in the 18th century in England made many other decisions that were frankly senseless, but this was not one of them. Anyway, I expect you to follow this rule, right? Because this is rather informal and very unclear to me. Still acceptable, not in our class. Now, for example, I get this sentence in a composition written by a student that says, Carla goes to the kitchen, which is a mess, to get a glass. And you clearly see that I need a comma here, right? I need a comma here. The kitchen, which is a mess, this is additional information. It doesn't define the kitchen. It doesn't tell me that you need to go, that she was walking into the kitchen that was a mess, because that would mean there was another kitchen that was not a mess, which is unusual for a house, right? Most houses have only one kitchen. One more thing I want to say is that maybe when you were preparing for exams, doing the fill-in-the-blanks, international exams, I mean, doing fill-in-the-blanks activities, possibly your teachers told you when you come across a clause, if there's a comma, do not use that, right? Possibly this is what a teacher told you, but I don't know. I'm just guessing. Okay, going back to the basics on page 183, actually, I'm going to make very few comments from these notes here, right? And the next comment I want to make is the one about the difference between who and whom, right? Which usually leads to trouble, right? Um, Please be sure to check out the watch out box because you have very good examples here, right? And I wanted to share with you this uh, story in 1992. Bush adopted the slogan when he was running for president, who do you trust, right? And you see the asterisk there. Actually, he should have said, whom do you trust? Because you trust him or her, right? Who did, so we'll get to that later. Um, so why do we need to use whom? Because whom is the object of the sentence, not the subject, right? In object position, I use whom. In subject position, I use whose. In the same, sorry, who, who. In the same way, for example, in speaking of pronouns, for the subject position, I use he. For the object position, I use him. For the possessive adjective, I use his, and for the reflexive pronoun, I use himself. You can see how these words change depending on the function they have. And this is what is happening here, right? This is a remnant from a language that at one point changed the words, all the words, depending on the function they had. This is something that still happens in German, right? And it is something that was natural in Latin, right? A word, a noun, would have a different ending if it was in subject position or in object position and whatnot. We'll not get into that. But let's say this is a remnant from older versions of English, right? So in these sentences, the next two questions, right? Who did we see, sorry, on the way home? Who did you play with? Actually, you wanted whom, right? Whom. Whom did you play with? Because you play with him or her or them. We saw him or them on the way home, right? And also, as the notes in your book tell you, we always use whom after prepositions, right? You rarely have problems there. But just before we forget, you could watch this video from Merriam-Webster. You could check out the whom videos from the Comma Queen or by the Comma Queen, who works at the New Yorker and has many other videos, right? By the way, well, we'll talk about this one, the dangling participle, sometime during the term. We call this the unattached participle or dangler. It has many names. We'll see that later. And well, you get the that versus which video too. Let's see. I think she had something else we could use. Well, she has many on punctuation. Well, whom videos is the video is here. And the use of possession, I don't remember whether she deals with possessives with gerunds, right, which is what we are going to discuss sometime during the term, okay? And of course, in the whom videos, I mean, this is one of them. I know I took it from here, sorry, I want to go here. You can go to all the videos, and there are 3 pages of videos, right? Okay. All right, so let's go back to your notes. I was on page 183, and point number 4 here, where and when, is something I'm going to discuss further ahead in another section, so we'll just leave it. We'll go briefly to section 1, and I told you I was going to go back to the beginning of the unit, and I'm going to take you to an example under the title Prepositions in Relative Clauses, right? Number 1. An example says, he stopped playing in 1995. Since when he hasn't kicked a ball. That's a bit unusual, right? But you find it also on page 182, right at the beginning of the unit. Activity 1, blank number 8. I left school at 16. Since when I have become a very successful accountant. And then in unit 10, the previous unit, right? Section 5, page 173, activity 2, sentence number 4 says, he had an awful crash when he was 20. Since when he has been a model driver. Now, this use of since when seems very unusual, right? And I got this entry from the dictionary. They've split up since when and since when, as in, since when did we ever listen? Did he ever listen to me? Sorry. Since when did he ever listen to me? Exactly like our Spanish desde cuando, right? Now, this use of since when possibly will sound very unusual. And to be frank, I haven't found it elsewhere. And possibly you wanted to go since then, right? Now, beware that if you were to use since then, you would need to stop the sentence, right? Sorry, I'm going to add an example here. So, he stopped playing in 1995. Since then, so you would stop, not a comma, right? Since then. If you say since then, right, he hasn't kicked a ball. Right? All right. Frankly, I don't have any more comments, but do go and read well, you have an idiom that's a proverb that's very popular. He who laughs laughs longest, a bit of a mouthful, as you can see, right? He who laughs last laughs. I said it wrongly. He who laughs last laughs longest. I got it. Yes, a mouthful. And then point number 4, in which you have examples for which was when, which was how, right? That are rather, well, frequent. So, let's go then to the activities for section 1 are very useful. You will find an example for since when in activity 3, number 1. Yes, we'll find another example. And let's go now to section 2, right? In section 2, you come across this, sorry, I'm going to go here, right? These two examples, once again, we discuss this idea of when we can omit that, right? The man that she married, that is not the subject, can be omitted. The man that married her is here, so I need the stop, and I need that because that is the subject here, right? I don't have any more comments about this section, so you may pay attention to it in your own free time, right? I want to take you to the dictionary now, right? And we found here an example of something we mentioned in the previous unit, if I don't remember correctly, or if I remember correctly. It goes, I'm going to copy it here actually. Everyone regretted not listening to the talk. And actually what we wanted is not having listened to the talk, right? Because it isn't the past. It is something we do anyway, right? Now, here is where I wanted to direct you to these sentences that I think are very interesting. Something that is happening to the language, I would say quite recently. Maybe this started 5 years ago, 10 years ago, somewhere there, right? Or at least I started hearing that. So then I'm hearing things, which is another thing altogether, right? Another kettle of fish. You find yourself in a situation where you don't know what to do. And actually, a situation where is not possible because where is not a place. So actually what you mean in a situation in which, right? A situation where you need help. And you hear this a lot. I will take this as informal, right? But it's a situation in which, and a similar thing is happening with how. It's surprising how many mobile users become deaf. That's silly, right? It's remarkable how a 16-year-old will be giving a pass. This is not how. This is that, right? This is that. In both cases, right? It's surprising that the fact that, not the way in which, it's the fact that, it's remarkable that the fact that a 16-year-old will be given a pass, and possibly you're thinking about the situation in which someone does not get the kind of punishment they deserve, right? All right. I wanted to take you to the dictionary because I wanted to have a look at this little thing. So the spelling for that word in British English, you will find it in activity 3, sentence 6, is jewelry. The pronunciation is practically the same, but American spelling takes away an L and an E, right? Not just an L. Okay, section number 3 now, right? Now, in section number 3, I have nothing to say. Wow. Actually, there's nothing I believe you don't understand from here. You will go directly to the activities. I just wanted to share with you this example. What price glory, right? Which is rather idiomatic, right? So what do I have to pay? What is the value of glory, right? And you have this idea of using what before a noun, okay? For the activities, I wish you good luck. Well, yes, just please do them. I love this idiom you will find here, to be lost for words, right? When you don't know what to say. I was lost for words, right? This is in the paraphrasing. That's a very good lost for words, right? To be surprised, confused, you don't know what to say. Very good. We're going to go to section 4 now. Now, remember that you can stop the video here, and section 4 will be for next class. Now, from now onwards, there's going to be lots and lots and lots of vocabulary. One thing I say when you get these long lists of words that might upset you and confuse you and possibly tell you to give up altogether is please don't, right? The one thing I say is that whenever there is an activity in the explanatory section, that is to say, the even numbers for pages, in this case 190, you have 2 activities that do not belong in the practice, they're part of the explanation. Make sure you learn those words, right? We're going to see them in class. Breakdown, outbreak, intake. Well, we'll see all of them in class. But I wanted to, these are all nouns we make from phrasal verbs. I'm going to say something I have been telling you. At least try to incorporate a couple of them, right? Maybe not all of them, but a couple of them. So, under point number one, you'll find outgoings, bystander, onlooker. And that's interesting, right? Because a bystander, right, is different from an onlooker, right? I mean, not very different, actually. Right? It's a synonym. That's what I meant. Not very different, right? So just people who were there, right? And I wanted, actually, you to pay attention to these 2 words, a backwash and a backlash, right, which can be confusing. The backwash, is the unpleasant result of an event. Actually, it's the waves caused by something moving through water, right? So it's kind of, I don't know, annoying, basically, right? So the backwash of an event, right? And a backlash, is actually a negative reaction, right? Usually people getting angry, complaining, right? A backlash from voters over the new tax, a backlash from shareholders, right? Okay. Well, I'm not going to discuss all the others because there are too many. And the other one you need to know is an outcry which is very, very similar to this one, right? A backlash and an outcry, right? These are two very similar words. But notice the context, right? Outcried at, over, against something. And it's again a reaction of anger, a public outcry, right? An outcry over the proposed change. And here we had a backlash against the tax, right? A backlash over the tax, right? Or against. So be careful. This is actually very similar. Okay, in the practice section, please complete all the activities. They're very, very good, very useful. And I promise that at first you will feel a bit confused. Then soon you'll get the hang of these words, or at least try, as I said earlier, to incorporate some of them. For activity 3, which is the paraphrase, be careful with prepositions. And section 5. Once again, a lot of expressions, right? And here we have lots of expressions to say you are in trouble, right? In a quandary. I wanted to get the pronunciation. In a quandary. Quandary, right? In a quandary, which is the same as in a dilemma or dilemma. Dilemma or dilemma, which is a predicament, right? So you see you have all the expressions there, right? Also in a jam, in a fix, in a hole, in trouble, in a sticky wicket, in a sticky wicket. I don't know. I'm mentioning that one because maybe you know it, but I don't know. Okay, so all expressions to show trouble. Remember to complete all the activities on this page, and of course all the practice section, right? Once again, lots and lots of vocabulary, right? I want to take you about sticky end and a sticky wicket, right? A difficult situation. I am in a sticky wicket. This comes from a sport. It's not baseball. I don't remember. No, it's not baseball. Sorry. Okay. I wanted to take you to some expressions here on page 192. You have the expression to bury your head in the sand, and that's why I have this beautiful thing. Look at the ostrich, because, well, it's not true that ostriches bury their heads in the sand, right? You may stop the video here to read this information. And you have the other expression, pass the buck. Yes, which comes from the idiom "the buck stops here," and this comes. It doesn't come from. It's not that he created the idiom. That President Truman created the idiom, right? But he made it popular, and he had this notice: "The buck stops here," meaning, well, I take responsibility for my actions, or I mean, I become responsible for problems. And he also made this idiom very popular: if you can't stand the heat, get out of the kitchen. He was president towards the end of the Second World War, right, in 1945, towards the end, right? Okay, you may check out that entry later. Activity 2, yes, activity 2 from page 193 is a bit difficult, but it is very interesting. For example, you get to see the difference between illegible, right? Difficult or impossible to read. So a signature is illegible, right? And unintelligible. Unintelligible, which is incomprehensible. So usually related to something you say. So muttered, something unintelligible, and the jargon they use is unintelligible, right? Okay, you will find lots of uses for you to practice. Please make sure you do the paraphrasing on page 194 and all of the other activities, which are very, very useful. By the way, you come across this expression over the hill, right? When someone is very old, that is an activity 4 on page 195. Okay, so you can be as old as the hill, or over the hill, meaning over here, 40. Come on. Okay, guys, so that is all. Thank you very much. Bye.